Looks like we've got everybody here and joining the call. We appreciate everybody taking the time today. Welcome to 2020 Football Media Day in a very different way from what we're used to. But appreciate everybody's patience as we work through all of our virtual media days here over the next 3 days. So we'll start with Coach Franklin and have him open with an opening statement. Coach?
I'd love to see most of your faces, so if you don't mind turning your cameras on, I'd appreciate it. I don't know if you guys just saw like the panic in my face, but someone just walked into my office and started talking. I thought we were going to have a hot mic issue, so wanted to make sure we're clear there. But I hope everybody's okay. Hope everybody's doing well and safe and healthy. Appreciate everybody getting on with us. Obviously excited about practice today. Things have gone well. In the new normal is how I would describe it. We've gotten a lot out of the last couple weeks from a meeting perspective, from a practice perspective, from an installation standpoint. It's been really good. I would actually say it was even positive. Yesterday we had bad weather, we had rain, and we were able to get wet ball work, which I always love. I think it drives the players crazy a little bit that we got an indoor facility and I want to be out in the rain. But I thought that was really good for us. I think it's important to do that before you get started with your season. But I'm excited about all three phases. We've got three veteran coordinators, offense, defense, and special teams. Feel really good about the staff that we've put together. Feel really good about the leadership that we have on our team. And I know there's a lot of excitement and anticipation, moving forward. So again, appreciate everybody getting on and look forward to answering you guys' questions.
We will start with Mark Brennan from Lions 24/7 with Fight on State. Mark?
James, I have my video on, even though I'm sharing bandwidth with my daughter. So if she gets booted off, I'm blaming you.
I appreciate it. You got shorts on today or pants?
Of course, but I'm not going to stand up and show everybody. Hey, can you give us an update maybe on if there's any realistic possibility of Micah opting back in, and just maybe go over your situation at linebacker depth? Have you had to move people around with him not being around? What's the situation there?
No, we're actually in a really good place. We had great conversation with Micah. And both his mom and dad. I think you guys know we got a really strong relationship with their whole family, and I think there was legitimate possibility for that happening. But as we continued to talk and continue to work with it, the timing of it, made it challenging. He had been gone for so long and been in California training that made it a little bit more complicated than we were able to work through. So. That won't be happening, and we understand the decision, and just like we were on the front end, supportive of the decision, and in a lot of ways, the time has allowed us to really kind of work through some of that. Obviously there's a lot of excitement about Jesse Luketa and Ellis Brooks and Brandon Smith and Charlie Catcher and Lance Dixon, and then obviously the new guys as well, Curtis Jacobs and Zariah Fisher and Tyler Elsdon. So we feel like we got a really good group there. There's flexibility there in terms of guys that we would consider more suited to be box backers, guys that we think are more suited to be field backers, and then obviously also the ability in today's day and age of college football of being able to play star and our nickel situation where we play with 5 defensive backs. So we think we're in a good place. It's obviously a position of strength. You never want to lose players, but we feel like that's a position of strength for us, and excited about what those guys are going to be able to do moving forward.
Rich Scarcella, Ready Eagle.
Hi, James. How are you?
Hey, Rich. Good, man. How are you?
I'm all right. James, did you ever think you'd get to this point where you're beginning contact practice, full patch practice, and how confident are you, or how nervous are you about everything going forward?
When you say that everything, that's kind of broad. Like,
I'm sorry, with regards to COVID.
Gotcha. Okay. So Yeah, I felt like there was a chance. I mean, obviously, you guys know I was pretty vocal in the beginning about, making sure that me, my players' parents, and my staff kind of understood, the decision that was made in the first place. Making sure that we were, understanding of that and how we got there. Um, you know, from that point on, I felt like there was still hope that we could have a season. And and obviously being able to spend some time watching the NFL and watching some of these other conferences and be able to learn from some of the things that they experienced, I think was helpful. Um, and then in terms of our process, I think I've said this to you guys before, is that's why I was vocal, is I felt comfortable with what Penn State was doing. I was comfortable with what the Big Ten was doing. And then I think at the end of the day, Rich, it's about communication, right? It's about communicating with the parents, which I think is a really critical piece of this, and communicating with the players and the staff and making sure everybody understands. And I think the opting out thing was important, that everybody had the opportunity to opt out if they weren't comfortable with it. So being transparent about how we're going to handle it, what our protocols are, and then allow everybody to make a choice. Are they comfortable with that or not? And then move forward. So, I think we're in a good place, but I do think the conversations with the parents have been critical. We got another call set up here soon to give them the most latest information that we have. And then the same thing with our parents and our staff. And I think one of the things we have to be careful of, that I think was the mistake in some of the other sports, is when you start testing every day, that's not a cure-all. Like, that doesn't solve your issues. That's just another layer, of protection. That's just another layer of protocols. The most important thing that we can do is our behaviors, our choices of social distancing, wearing masks. I saw a really cool thing that someone put out the other day, and it kind of had the mask here, and then it had the mask here, and then it had the mask under here, and they kind of had it all kind of broken down about what each mean. I thought was pretty interesting. But I think for us, we've gotten to a pretty good place, and I think the communication has been the most important part of all of it. But again, Rich, our behaviors are the most important thing that we got to continue working on. And I think some of the other leagues, once they started testing every single day, especially in some of the professional leagues, from the feedback we've gotten, it kind of gave everybody a false sense of security. And they felt like they could just go back to living the way they were living. And you're not going to be. This is the new normal. And we all have to embrace that.
Go to Audrey Snyder with The Athletic.
Hey, James, thanks for your time.
Hey, Audrey.
I'm curious what practice is going to look like today for you guys in terms of, obviously first day of pads, but you guys had been separating groups throughout to keep the numbers small. And what do you think meetings, in terms of everything still going to be on Zoom this season, anything in the building in person, and like even basic stuff that we probably take for granted, like will you guys be using a hotel before home games still, or no?
Yeah, so all those things are being, still worked out. And that's conversations with the NFL. That's conversations with other colleges, me as a head coach, the operations staff, our medical staff, talking to other people, what they've learned. For us, we went split practices longer than most. Pretty much everybody that I look at and read articles about or see on TV, everybody was practicing full practices for a long time. We weren't. We just started that last week. I don't see anybody wearing masks at practice. And I know there's people that say to me, well, there's not true evidence of, I would rather go above and beyond with everything. So we wear masks at every practice, whether it's the full visor or visor and the cloth. We are still doing Zoom meetings. We're still not meeting in person. As we continue to transition and continue to show that we're doing good in each one of these phases. We'll continue to kind of work back to that. So as we practice as a full team and the everyday testing is going on, if it looks like we're getting into a pretty good routine with that, and our medical people feel that we can get back to full meetings, which there's value of being able to meet in person. If we do it, Audrey, again, I think for all of us, we can't think of like comparing it to how we used to be. So like that meeting may be one position group in Haluba. That may be using our team auditorium and our offense and defensive meeting rooms as meeting rooms. That may be using part of the Morgan Center. That may be using East area. So our in-person meetings may not be like they've been in the past. It's going to be different. Nothing is going to be the same. Again, like you're saying, traveling to games, how are you doing it? The size of the plane is a little bit of a challenge here in State College. At the hotels, who's serving the food? Like, as as football coaches, and I think you guys have gotten to know me pretty well, every detail is going to matter and everything's got to be thought through. And I think we all realize, kind of back to Rich's point and Rich's question, we can't eliminate all risk. That's not realistic. But how many variables can we control? And that's what we're trying to do. And again, that's where the communication with our staff and with our parents and with the players is really important to get everybody to buy into that.
Parthu Paje from Center Daily Times.
Hey, Coach, thanks a lot for the time.
Okay.
I know it's been a short time, but just so far, how have you seen, Kirk Ciarrocca working with Sean Clifford? How has Ciarrocca kind of helped to elevate Sean's game so far?
Yeah, your Wi-Fi is breaking up a little bit, I think, but I think your question was about Coach Ciarrocca and Sean Clifford. It's been good. I've really enjoyed, getting to work with Kirk and spending time with him. He's a pro. He's a football guy. I love surrounding myself with players that love football. I love surrounding myself with staff that love football. I'm not a guy that necessarily loves people that, love playing golf. Like, I want their life to revolve around their family and our program. And he's a football guy. He's in here early. He's here till late. He's talking football. He's thinking football. He's eating football. He's sleeping football. Great conversations with our staff, great conversations with the players. I know our players are excited. It's just been really good, and he's at a point in his career that, there's a lot of confidence that comes, with his experience at this point of his career and all the things that I knew about him. And then all the things that good friends of mine that we have in common told me about have come true. And I think, again, me being transparent about what my expectations were and him being transparent about what his expectations, it's made this transition pretty smooth, for the most part. So, I see all of our quarterbacks improving. I see our wide receivers improving. And I felt like really at a lot of the other positions, we had a chance to make a significant jump. So, it's one thing to do it in shorts, and dominate 7-on-7s. It's another thing to put the pads on and I'll have a better idea, after we've done this for at least a couple days.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Mike, how many cups of coffee have you had today?
Several. I'm ready, baby.
I love it.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. It's an excellent sort of scene setting point there. Where do you feel like the daily testing and the daily result and the short-term results of the testing, that was sort of categorized as a critical element in the Big Ten deciding that they could come back. It doesn't sound like you think it is that. I mean, you're talking about our behavior is much more important. how has that changed your daily routine? What is the daily testing and daily results? How does that work? Give us a picture of that.
Yeah, either I didn't do a good job of explaining, what I meant on the front end, or you misinterpreted what I was saying. I think the daily testing is a critical piece. What I was trying to state, maybe I didn't do a good job of, is the feedback that I've gotten from other coaches and other leagues and even other sports is that once people started testing every day, that people made mistakes, that they felt like, okay, I can just go back to living like normal because I'm being tested every single day. And what I'm saying is this is just another layer of protection that we're putting in place. We still have to continue to do the other things. And this is helpful and it's impactful, but this isn't like kind of the thing that wipes the whole canvas clean, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Mike? Could you unmute Mike again?
Yeah, it does make sense. I didn't mean to suggest that you were questioning the validity of the instant testing. Your answer was good. I got you.
So yeah, I think it was very important from the Big Ten perspective. What I'm just want to make sure that I'm clear, because my players read this, my parents read this stuff, and I just got done saying this very thing to them at the end of practice yesterday to emphasize it. This is awesome, and it allows us every single day to manage the office and to manage the playing field, to make sure that we have as clean of a playing surface and office as we possibly can. But I still want to make sure that we're making all the other choices when we're away from Penn State football as well. I was driving downtown and there was 5 guys that were walking downtown and 4 of them had their mask on. And I was like, awesome. The one guy didn't. So I called him multiple times and harassed him, and then called his parents and said, need your help, because this is important.
Go to Tyler Donahue, Lions 24/7.
Hi, James. Good afternoon.
Hey, Tyler.
Back on the field with full pads for the first time this year. Curious what you think the team stands to benefit immediately from that transition. Are the full pads on today, and when when does full contact get going? And do you have any kind of trepidation about maybe guys getting back into it too quickly after a period away fundamentally?
Yeah, the way I understand it, it's not full pads in day one. It's just helmets, helmets and shoulder pads, day one, and then transitions from there. But again, I think that's a little bit of the perception out there, when it comes to full contact. Most of the programs that I've been around and most of the coaches that I've been around, there's very little full contact left in college and NFL practices. It very rarely happens. But yeah, there are some aspects of it. To your point, it's not like you can go from not doing any of it, Tyler, to go into a game and it's the first time anybody's ever tackled. But what we try to do is you try to do things and in as controlled environments as possible. Instead of doing a full scrimmage, maybe you do just a tackling drill where we've been doing tackling drills for the last couple of weeks, but they've been more tag off, where now we may go to a thud tempo where we're going to bang and wrap without going to the ground, those types of things. So we got to build it in stages, no different than you do anything else. You go like, individual to group to team settings, just like you go to footwork, to tag off tempo, to thud tempo, to, again, every once in a while, live tempo. You need to do a little bit of that, but you want to do it in segments. And, that's what we're going to try to do. I think, to your point, and others that have been on the call, when we watch college football on the weekend, that's what I'm constantly doing. I'm not watching the game like most people do. I wish I could. I wish I could just literally, turn on football and grab some pretzels or chips, and watch the game and just enjoy it. But I'm constantly watching for things, and I'm texting Jevin Jevin Stone, did you see fourth quarter Ole Miss game? This happened, pull it out. We need to show it to our guys tomorrow. And part of that, to your point, Tyler, is tackling. You see examples of poor tackling. You see, issues on special teams, all the stuff that's usually rampant early in the season, especially in college football when we typically don't have a preseason and the NFL does.
John Petishnock, Happy Valley News.
Hey, good afternoon, James. Thanks for your time today and hope you're doing well.
You too, John.
Hey, when you look at how your players have responded this summer, both with handling the COVID-19 precautions and with standing up for and marching for social justice, how would you describe the level of maturity and the level of leadership that you're seeing from the guys off the field?
Obviously, and again, I don't want this to be misinterpreted, but obviously the challenges that we had that came up this year from a health and welfare standpoint when it comes to the game of football, and then all the challenges and issues that came up off the field with social issues in our country. There's a tremendous opportunity there for growth. There's a tremendous opportunity there for discussions, deep conversations with your team and with your staff and with your neighbors and with your family. There's tremendous opportunities. And, the reality is the thing that we're all going to have to, find a way to deal with the rest of our lives is adversity and challenges. And, we had a lot of it. This 2020's been interesting. There's been a lot of challenges, a lot of adversity. You see some of the stuff on the West Coast with the fires, and there's just been a lot of issues, in our country and in our world. So, it does create an opportunity to have these discussions. And I think our leadership has been excellent, especially from the players' perspective. I think our staff has been great. I want to give our medical staff, Andy Mutton and our trainers, and Wayne Sebastianelli, and Dr. Billy, and Tessa, and Matt and Ray. Our trainers have been phenomenal. And I don't think maybe the trainers nationally are getting enough credit and getting enough love, because they have been working around the clock to try to make this work for college football and for sports in general. But yeah, I think our people, I've been proud of our people. I've been proud of our players. I've been proud of our staff. I've been proud of our players being vocal about things that's important to them. I will tell you this that I find really interesting is, whenever we post something or I post something on social media about voting, there's a certain group that just attacks me on social media, or attacks our account on social media. And just to be clear, we're not telling anybody who to vote for or what to vote. We're trying to get our young people active in the process. We want our young people to be active in the process, to do their own research, to have their own opinions, and then vote how they see fit. And that's what we're doing at Penn State. And that's what I see happening nationally. But what's interesting is whenever we post anything, it is pretty interesting, the reaction to that. And again, I would hope that everybody in our country, and if we're talking about politics, either side, I think we all want our people in our country, and specifically, students on college campuses, to be involved in the process. I think that's important for whatever side of the aisle you sit on.
Go to Peter Terpstra, WTAJ.
Hey, Coach. The last time we heard from you, you mentioned how it was difficult to do some of the team building things, or some of the things that would get players' minds off of football. The season's long; it can be mentally taxing. Have you guys been able to find any way to replace those team building activities, or to kind of do that same type of thing?
Well, I think it depends on how you go about your business. I see a lot of places doing it, and I think it's great. But the way we are doing things here at Penn State, I haven't found a way to make it make sense right now where it's fun. Again, I see other people doing it, but the way we do things with masks and social distancing, I had a guy in my office the other day, and I'm a pretty, I'm a guy who hugs and shows my emotions and things like that. And I'm like, it was like, turn your face that way. I'm turning my face this way, no skin, like, kind of a strange interaction, but that's kind of how it is right now. It's I'd rather, again, go above and beyond to keep everybody safe. And that doesn't always create for a great environment when you want to have the guys over the house for a barbecue, or you want to take them bowling, or you want to, do some of those things. It just doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun when you talk about everybody's food has got to be pre-packaged and everybody's got to be wearing masks and everybody's got to be socially distanced. That's one of the sacrifices that we're going to have to make right now, that we're not going to have a whole lot of that, at least at this stage.
Go to New Bias with Lauren, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Hey, Coach Franklin. Hopefully everything is well.
Hey, New Bias.
Thank you, man. Story I'm doing down the road. You have one of the more diverse coaching staffs, not just coaching, but training staffs that I've seen in America. How important is that to you, particularly in times like this? People are talking about diversity, but you've been doing it for a while. How important is it to be a standard bearer in that?
I think it's really important. I think it's really important. And I've said this before, when you got a football team of 125 young men from all different backgrounds and all different perspectives, diversity is really important, because I need to make sure that all 120, 125 guys on that team have someone that they're comfortable with and can connect with about a variety of topics and about a variety of subjects. Diversity is important for me as well when I'm making decisions, that I can hear from multiple people, not yes men, multiple people that have different perspective, different life experiences, that look at things through a different lens, so that ultimately I can make the best decision for Penn State football moving forward. And then obviously, as one of only a few men of color in my position, I understand the significance of that as well. So I think it's really important for a lot of different reasons.
Neil Rudell.
New Bias, I think I had a follow-up question, if that's okay, Chris.
Hold on, New Bias.
I'm sorry. Just real quick, not to say that you would hire someone not qualified, but as a Black man, do you feel a responsibility, if there's an equal Black person or person of color, to really make sure you give that person a full shot at certain higher positions, particularly trying to develop head coaches?
I have a responsibility to make an impact in college football. I have a responsibility to make an impact in our student athletes' experience. I have a responsibility to help train the next up and coming coach in our program. So diversity is always going to be a part of our hiring process. There should be diversity reflected in every hiring process for every position that we have. And that's not just in Penn State football. That should be throughout our entire campus. But at the end of the day, we're always going to hire, the most appropriate person for the job, the most qualified person for the job, because I think that obviously is at the end of the day is the most important thing you can do. And if diversity also factors in and they're the most qualified person, then awesome, then everybody wins. But it's got to start with a process that is inclusive.
Neil Rudell, El Tunamir.
Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, Neil.
You've been mentioning the last couple of press conferences about choices, and I saw you had a couple players getting some legal trouble. I'm just wondering if there's been any status change or how you're handling those situations.
I don't understand the first part of your question. I don't. What about choices? I was
lumping those, just the use of the word choices into the fact that some kids have gotten into some trouble, and I'd wondered maybe if you were referring to the COVID, fine, but I just wondered if there's been any status change with a couple of the kids that have run afoul.
No, there's been no status changes other than the ones that you guys already know about. I think we did have one player that is no longer in the program. But besides that, everything else is being handled internally with the athletic department, with our football program, and once again, with their parents, that we're all working through this thing together. And I'm a big believer that our responsibility is to help our young people grow. And that's with them individually, and that's also with their teammates. We got a responsibility to help these guys grow, and young people make mistakes. And it's our job to help them through those.
Ben Jones, statecollege.com.
James, I have to say, when you mentioned that you don't like people that golf, that probably hurt like a third of the people in this call, because that's about the only thing we can do these days.
I just say, no, I wasn't saying I don't like people that golf. I don't like hiring coaches that like golfing all day as much as they like football. Just because.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I think Nate is probably crying off camera somewhere.
There's no doubt.
The NCAA passed a rule, what feels like a million years ago, that gives these guys some flexibility for expression in the season. Where are you in some of those conversations? And do you think there's value? You talked about the people that have tweeted at you or at the account. Do you think there's value in maybe making some of those people uncomfortable while you have that conversation?
When you say expression, Ben, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you're saying.
I mean, they talked about stuff in terms of the uniforms, in terms of patches and things like that.
Yep. Okay, good. That's what I thought you're referring to. I just wanted to be clear. I think for there to be any growth, and I think for there to be any change, Ben, there is an aspect of it that's education, and there's an aspect of it that is about making people a little bit uncomfortable. We talk about it all the time in our program, that for you to truly grow, you have to break outside of your normal routines. And typically when you're uncomfortable is when you're growing the most. And that's our job, is to challenge the people in our program to grow, whether it's as a student or whether it's a football player or whether it's a young man, whatever it may be. And when it comes to these social issues, there's always that fine line of how do we represent ourselves? How do we make a statement? But how do we also do it in a way that aligns, with our university and with our community as well? And as you know, Ben, that's not always easy to do, to make all those different groups, the players in our program, the university and the community, all comfortable with how you're expressing it. You got a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old males from diverse background. You got a university that is steeped in tradition and history, which I think is great. And then you also have the community that we live in as well. So it's never easy to make everybody comfortable with the process. But I think as long as we're thoughtful and we have a process and we understand and we're intentional and thoughtful, then I hope everybody will respect that. So we do have a plan, Ben. It's in discussion right now, and specifically what that's going to be between myself, the leadership council, the administration, so on and so forth. But I think there's also, Ben, the thing that's important to me is how do you make a statement, but then how do you also align with actionable items that are going to make a difference? A tweet is nice, but what are some of the things that we can do to make things better? And that's for everybody. That's, I could list out 25 different issues and challenges that we have that we can grow, as a community and as a society.
We've got time for a couple more questions with Coach. We'll go to Mark Wogenrich with SI.com.
Hi, James. How are you?
Hey, Mark.
What do you have any plans to scrimmage, I guess, before the first game? Will there be time for that? And are you comfortable with playing to starting the season on a Friday night, if that does come to pass?
Yeah, so a couple things. Yeah, we will have some form of a scrimmage before the first game. You know, I think you guys have seen it do it before, some variation of a controlled scrimmage where there are, you know, some of those live tackling and things like that, but not a whole lot of it. And then when it comes to games, you know, I think we've been pretty outspoken here at Penn State about that we think college athletics and college sports, and specifically college football, should be played on Saturdays, and Fridays should be for high school. But we can only control what happens on our campus and what happens on other campuses and other institutions, and what the Big Ten will do. Then we'll be supportive of that. The one thing I would say is, you know, if we were going to be opening on any other day besides Saturday, what typically happens is you're told that ahead of time, and that allows you to come to camp earlier. So my point is, if we were playing on a Friday or Thursday, then to me, we should have been told that ahead of time, and then we could have started camp a few days earlier. Because if we're playing on a Thursday and somebody else is playing on a Saturday, then they got more days to prepare for their first game. So, you know, I would think that we're gonna be playing on a Saturday, but that has not been announced yet. Does that make sense, Mark? Thank you. Thumbs up. I appreciate the thumbs up.
Last question will go to Nate Bauer, Blue White Illustrated.
Hey, James. How much?
Are you on the course right now? Are you like out on the course right now?
Nah, I'm in the living room. It's a beautiful day, though. Maybe later.
Double bogeys.
Try not to. You know. How much, if at all, do the NCAA changes for eligibility this year affect your calculus for roster management? And maybe to piggyback on that, what kind of response or feedback have you gotten from both players and parents kind of regarding that issue?
Yeah, it's tricky because basically, you know, we use, you know, basically the last 4 to sometimes 10 years in trying to calculate what your roster is going to be. And on average, how many guys leave early for the NFL? You know, on average, you know, how many you know, of your 4th year seniors are going to come back for their 5th year, you know, those types of things. So this is unusual because you can't use, you know, either what your gut is telling you or the data that you've collected over the previous 10 years to make a projection on how many scholarships you're going to have available or not. So it is definitely going to be interesting. I would also say, you know, that we've had a little bit of conversation. I've had a few players come in and talk to me and a few parents come in and talk to me. But the other thing I would say is I think the more talented rosters will be less affected by this, because I think the more talented rosters are still going to have the normal amount of guys that they have that go on to the NFL. So you're still going to have similar turnover that you always would have, if that makes sense.
Coach, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you popping in, and we'll start some weekly availabilities here in the coming weeks. So, Coach, thanks for your time. The rest of the media members, we'll have you hang on. Greg's going to explain the breakout room process, and then we'll probably throw you back into the waiting room while we prep for that. So appreciate everybody's time, and we'll throw it over to Greg.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for jumping on.